In this video, we are going to talk about CCCA, concentric centrifugal cicatricial alopecia. I know, that's a mouthful. I know a lot of people aren't gonna want to hear this, so take a sip of your tea. This form of alopecia is almost 100% exclusive to black women. Not a full 100%, but about 92% is almost exclusive to black women. Few reviews from clients who had CCCA when they first started working with me, whether it was inside of the challenge or watching my videos. Their results are going to be left here on the screen. So many women within the 7-day challenge have healed completely from their CCCA. So if you want to know more about it, how it's caused, how to prevent it, and how to fix it if you already have it, then make sure you stick around to the end of this video because your girl can fix CCCA. CCCA is a form of alopecia that is almost exclusive to black women, and it is spotted, and its characteristics are mainly in the middle. That first word means that it's in the middle. It starts off in the middle of the head and then it spreads out throughout other parts of the scalp. Normally for dermatologists understanding, this becomes something that is permanent hair loss. Now, when dermatologists tell you that it's permanent hair loss, it is not because they are trying to scare you. It is because the things that are going to be included in this video, they either understand that you will never stop, or as these dermatologists who are scientists have done their research and study, they find that no matter what they recommend to black women, no matter what type of treatments they give to black women, this CCCA will never go away. Well, today we're going to break down exactly why that keeps happening. So stay out of your feelings, drink your tea. What are the causes? There are a couple. The very first thing that everybody loves to say, and I'm a black woman, so if you gonna be in your feelings, why are you talking about black women? I'm a black woman too. Get out of your feelings. I say what I want. So when we're talking about genetics is not always like, oh, okay, my mom and my grandma and my aunties and all of them had CCCA, so no matter what I do, I am going to have CCCA. That is not true. When you go down to genetics, there are certain things in the genome that are passed down from generation to generation that do result in your hair being thinner or certain things like that. But when it comes to CCCA and the majority of black women who have CCCA, what you're finding that all of them have the same practices, whether it's the type of foods that you're eating, the type of diets that you have, your vegetable intake or the lack thereof, and most of the time everybody has the same habits, whether it's the way that you style your hair, the way that you grease the scalp, the type of products you use, the type of products that you won't stop using. These are the things that are genetics, but we have to understand that a lot of the genetic patterns are really hereditary, are really habitual generational patterns. Like my grandma greased my scalp, so I grease my scalp. My grandma used hot 6 oil, so I use hot 6 oil. My grandma used to grease my scalp and then scratch dandruff off, which is a scalp disorder caused by you greasing the scalp. But so this is normal. This is what I do. Those are the things that are genetic. Really is generational habits that lead to things that look like a genetic pattern. All right. Number two will be chemical treatments. Of course, if you use, most people are like, oh my God, I'm never putting color on my hair. I'm gonna use henna in my hair, which is a protein treatment. The difference between something being a protein and a protein treatment, but we'll talk about that in another video. I'll talk about henna and explain it, link in the description box below. But most people think that anybody who does color, anybody who gets a relaxer, anybody who uses any chemical whatsoever on their hair has damaged hair, and that's not true. There is a certain pattern and procedure that you have to follow to color hair, right? So as long as you follow those patterns, right, and you understand the 3 different layers of the hair shaft, you're not gonna damage damage the hair shaft like that. But if you're just like doing box dye, doing box color, just like the whole craze about relaxers causing CCCA and cancer and all of these different things, what people fail to realize is the relaxers that they're talking about are box relaxers, box color and things like that. Because when you are deciding that you don't want to go to a professional, or you don't want to use professional hair color, and you want to go get color or relaxer from the Sally's or from your local beauty supply store, what you don't realize is the professional color and color that you can get from Walmart are two completely different things. For example, when we're talking about color, right? With hair color, when you get hair color in a salon, we have 10 value, it goes all the way to like no lift, right? Whatsoever, starting at 0, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Like, and for some companies it goes up even higher than that. But if you go into, let's say, Walmart, and you get color out of Walmart, right? Same color, same little picture on the box. At Walmart, it's the highest level developer possible. It's like about 60 volume developer in that box. Why? Because they know that there are going to be so many different people with so many different porosities coming in, and this color has to work. So not only that, women also don't follow directions. So not only are you getting a color or a relaxer or a chemical of any kind with the highest level of developer, you also don't follow directions. And you think that if the directions say 25 to 30 minutes, you think that you can leave it on longer so it'll process faster, and you don't have to follow the directions. So you may walk around the house and clean up and leave the color on for 2 hours. These are the type of things where chemicals lead to CCCA, because the majority of black women, whether you want to admit it or not, do not listen, do not follow directions, and think they know more than everybody, even the people that they buy the products from. Let's keep it 100. Number 3 is going to be trauma. These next two, ooh, y'all not gonna like these. Trauma. So where does trauma come from on the hair shaft? We're talking about the hair shaft and the scalp. But first, the trauma from the hair shaft is coming from the way that you manipulate the hair's cuticle. Your hair is a fiber made of a protein called keratin, and a couple of other fibers, right? A couple of other types of fibers. But it is primarily keratin, and it is a polypeptide chain constructed of 3 bonds. When the hydrogen bond is broken, the hair shaft is no longer intact. So by definition, common sense, is weaker, right? So if you are a person who is always combing your hair when it's wet, always detangling the hair when it's wet, most black women think that they are doing the best thing for their hair when you put it in braids, or like crochet braids and like tight styles and things of that nature. But I need you to understand that regardless of whether or not your braid or braids too tight, or if you're just a person that's tender-headed, if there is any type of pain or discomfort, that is a form of trauma on the hair's follicle. And if the primary styles that you wear all the time are styles that cause tension in the scalp for a couple of days, and then after a couple of days it ends up subsiding, the pain ends up subsiding, and then it's back to normal, I need you to understand that just because the pain has subsided does not mean that the follicle is no longer stressed out. You know how sometimes you'll watch movies and people go through so much excruciating pain that their body just kind of like they kind of just pass out? That's kind of the thing that's happening within the follicle. Here on the screen you can see a woman who is a part of the Team Natural gang, and because you guys wear your hair in its swollen state all the time, you get this preconceived notion that because your curls are so full and fluffy that your hair is thick. But again, I use this example all the time. I need you to pay attention to her scalp and how in some places her follicles have 3 hairs per follicle. In some places it's 2, and in some places it's 1. A woman who you can see certain follicles have almost 4 strands per follicle is a woman that has naturally thick hair. So when you see the majority of the hair having 4 follicles per strand, and then you see all of this miniaturization is what you see when you are seeing some of these follicles. Hopefully I'll be able to isolate them and put them on the screen, where you see follicles that look like this, where it's like there'll be a thick hair and then a noticeably thinner hair within the hair's follicle. This is the beginning stages of CCCA. And I also need you to remember that when they are doing these scopes, when you are going to the dermatologist, the miniaturization is starting in the middle of the head and then it flowers out to the rest of the head, because black women are under the impression that because we can go longer without washing our hair, that a protective style is something that is going to be causing a whole lot of tension. I'm not saying never get box braids, that's not what I'm saying, but what I am saying is go to somebody who's not a new school braider. And I'm not saying don't go to a younger girl, I'm saying go to a braider who understands the complexity of the human scalp. Go to a braider that's not gonna suffocate your scalp with the thickest polymer on the market, which is edge control, right? You really want to use logic as you are moving through your hair journey, because anything else doesn't make sense. These are the different things that lead to the tension that causes CCCA. And I also, another thing that I want you to think about is something that I didn't even think about before. As a black woman, like once we get our hair done, what's the most important thing? We want to make sure like our edges stay slicked. If we get like a real cute ponytail, whatever it is, even if your hair is not done naturally, when you tie your hair up, you tie it up, and what do? You pull, you use tension here, and you either tie it in the front or the back. But most of the time you're using tight tension, whether you have a style that you want sleek or not. It's just something that naturally happens by habit. And even if it's not tight, if you're wearing a bonnet to sleep every single night, right, and you laying down and it's rubbing, even if you're on a silk or satin pillowcase, the silk or satin pillowcase is just stopping your hair from like snagging as you sleep, right? But tension is tension and friction is friction. So if you're like constantly wearing like a scarf or a rag or whatever on your head, and you're like rubbing and stuff every single night, and your scalp like never has a breather, that could be an issue too. Ooh. Last but certainly not least, this is actually number 1, but I wanted to say the best for last, is inflammation. Inflammation is one of the leading causes for CCCA in black women. I'm sorry, but black women are the one group of women on this planet that will not let go of the fact that their scalp does not need oil. It doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter how much I show you a video like this, it doesn't matter how many times I show you a video with an explanation like this. There will still be women, after what you just seen, there will still be women in the comments that say, oh, it doesn't matter, I still need to add grease and I still need to add oil to my scalp. And then every time I get a comment like that, I'll ask the follow-up question with, okay, well, knowing that you have this natural sebum coming out of your scalp, what is the oil that you're putting on your scalp going to do that this natural sebum that's coming out of your scalp can't do? And then no one can ever answer that question. That's why within the 7-day challenge, you have a brand new routine where where you have coursework that you make it through, and it's a self-guided course. You can move at your own pace, and you watch all of the videos, watch all of the content. There's a group there to help you through different things because they've been where you are, and you can set up a new pattern that causes you not to cause your scalp to have massive inflammation, right? Because that is the thing. What we have to understand is, first there is a trigger, then there's inflammation, then there's CCCA. The inflammation ends up killing the follicles, killing the hair shaft, throwing off the natural hair growth cycle. In the video in the description box below, I taught you that there are over 900 different forms of yeast and bacteria and 2 parasites that live on the human scalp, and their favorite food is oil because they're all there for your scalp's natural sebum. So all you're doing by adding oils and greases and butters to the scalp is feeding the natural flora that lives on the scalp. And by you feeding this natural flora, you cause more inflammation. You know why? One of the main forms of yeast that live on the human scalp that everybody hears about all the time, it's there for sebum, right? It eats the sebum on your scalp, and then it has any living organism that eats has to let it out. The Demodex mites, they eat the sebum, but they don't have a booty hole, so they explode. And that's what this looks like. Those Demodex mites are on your eyelids too. But the Demodex mites within the follicle, they explode, and then they're there. And then on top of that, this yeast right here, this form of yeast right here is a whole nother thing. It eats your sebum or whatever oil you're putting on the scalp, and then it poops out oleic acid. A lot of people aren't allergic to or don't have a sensitivity to oleic acid, but a lot of women do. And every woman that wants to be like, oh, well, oiling and greasing the scalp is supposed to happen, we're supposed to do that. You are also women that seem to forget that as you were getting your scalp grease with your blue magic and getting your hot oil treatments and all of that, you also had monthly sessions where either your mama, your grandmother, your cousin, somebody was scraping layers and layers and layers of dandruff off of your scalp. Dandruff is not dry scalp. Dandruff is oily scalp. Dandruff is a mild version of seborrheic dermatitis, right? So when we are talking about CCCA, the trigger started with you oiling and greasing your scalp on a regular basis. You completely cleanse your scalp and then pack it with oils, greases, and butters, right? So at first, everything seems good, but then over time, the hair follicle starts to deteriorate. Hair miniaturization begins to set in. So this is what I want y'all to think about. CCCA is a progressive follicle disorder. So when we're talking about dealing with CCCA, it's not just, oh, what product do I use? No, it's, oh, what pattern and routine do I change? What form of brainwash do I let go of? That's where it needs to start, because there was first the trigger. The trigger is the oil, the grease, the butter. That's the trigger. The really, really tight styles that you have to pop pills to make it through a couple of days, or for you to be able to sleep after you get your hair braided. That's the trigger. Those triggers cause inflammation. The inflammation led to multiple disorders at a time. So the first disorder that your trigger and inflammation caused was dandruff. That's the dry scalp, what you think is dry scalp, right? And then after that, you kept putting more oil on, because if y'all see dandruff, the first thing y'all do is scrape the dandruff off and then pack the scalp full of more oil. So eventually that dandruff turns into seborrheic dermatitis, and then you keep going. You're like, oh my God, it's getting worse, I need more. So then you add essential oils that also don't go on the scalp like that, not in the way that y'all are using them. And so then that seborrheic dermatitis goes from seborrheic dermatitis to folliculitis, and then it keeps going because your patterns won't change. Actually, they're getting worse, because every time you go on YouTube, there's a new fad, there's a new fruit or vegetable to put in your hair, there's a new made up hack for you to try, there's another celebrity who has never given a damn about hair that is automatically a hairstylist, even though none of these celebrities do their own hair, but all of a sudden they are experts in yours and everybody's buying them. And then the trigger, like, they're just more triggers to the point where there's just follicle death. There's just death to the follicle. I don't know what it is. And if I'm a scientist that isn't black and I don't understand grease in the scalp, I don't understand oil in the scalp and things of that nature, I'm not going to understand how to treat you. I'm not going to understand how to get here. Not to mention, I have so many dermatologists that I work with, a couple that are black, only 2 black dermatologists, and none of them, the three women that dermatologists that I work with, none of them want to treat black clients. Both of them are black women. The other one is not a black woman. I think she's a Hispanic woman. I'm not sure. I just know she's not black, but she got some flavor. But she's a Hispanic woman, and none of them take black women because y'all do not listen. The main trigger for CCCA is oiling and greasing the scalp. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm telling you what I know, because as a scientist, following the scientific method led me to be able to cure so many different forms of so many different clients that had CCCA, whose doctors told them and dermatologists told them that they would always have it. And that's not because the doctors are like, oh, so incompetent and I'm so smart, even though I am. But the thing is, the way that I get down, I'm not for the weak, right? I am the type of person that is going to force you to look in the mirror and force you to be accountable, because it is only through your accountability that you'll be able to research the patterns that led to the triggers that caused the inflammation that led to the seborrheic dermatitis that eventually turned into CCCA. That's just what it is. And it's so simplistic. And again, the reason that it never looks like it's something that could be reversed is because anytime they go, most women who find out that they have CCCA or have been diagnosed with CCCA, it is because they went to the dermatologist, got a biopsy from the dermatologist, and the dermatologist has seen like, okay, it is complete death. Like, I can't even see anything. Most of the time, your follicles are so full of grease, butters, and oils as you're at the dermatologist's office, so they can't see anything in there. There's no life whatsoever within your follicle because you're constantly suffocating it, thinking that it's helping, and no matter what anybody tells you, you won't listen. You think that you think that dirt makes your hair grow. You think that not washing your hair is something that is going to make your hair just so beautiful and healthy, and it's not true. The dirtier your hair is, the more full of yeast and bacteria your hair is, the more that will be a trigger for inflammation, which will lead to CCCA. So these are things that I really need you to understand. There are so many different hairstyles that we can do, but Team Natural has locked the black women into this thing where it's like the only thing you can do with your hair is put it in 2-strand twists or put it in box braids and things of that nature, and put it in like single plaits, single strand twists, 2-strand twists, and plaits like by themselves are not protective styles. We are in my next video, so make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I found a video where there is this African tribe and they are men, and they verify what just came out of my mouth. They all have hair to their butt, and they let you know we do twists like this to lock our locks permanently, but we do twists like this as a protective style, but you can't leave them in no longer than 3 months or your hair is gonna lock up, and it is not a protective style unless you do this. Like, what are we talking about? So if we can't get all of our information from the motherland, but then not follow the guidelines of the people in the motherland. So again, make sure you stay tuned for that video. You don't need an influencer. Your hair, your body is masterful. Why do you guys think that your body, your blood, your heart, everything is still pumping while you sleep with no help from you, but your hair can't grow unless you put $500 worth of products in it using a $300 blow dryer? Like,